Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Media Crash podcast. This is episode 6. We're going to be talking about the young adult genre because quite a lot of things start as books and then get turned into a bunch of other stuff. So my name is Holden, otherwise known as Time to Grind.
My name is Daniel, otherwise known as Not Daniel.
I am not Daniel. I am Matthew, and I am also known as Satir.
Hey.
Steal my name. My anonymous name.
So I think all of us just have experienced a ton of young adult, books, ranging from like Harry Potter to, Hunger Games.
We're adults. We're young. It's only natural.
It's the hip thing to do. So, they're pretty interesting because they start off as books, a lot of these, and then if they get popular, they get turned into like a billion different movies and video games and Happy Meal toys. So I can't think of any examples, but I know that was a thing that happened when they actually did those. I don't know. Are there Happy Meal toys?
I remember like being in high school when Hunger Games was a thing, and like that was just so all-consuming. Was it high school? Anyways,
did you do this?
It felt huge. Yeah, or like
I think it's forward. Was it 3?
I think it's 3. Or was it 2? I don't know. Well, you see,
Experts on the young adult genre. I read all these books, by the way, too. I read all of them before the movies came out.
The entire young adult genre.
Yes, all of them. Every single one.
That's pretty impressive. I read the first half of the first book.
Of Hunger Games, yeah. Well, it's interesting because the young adult genre itself was just like a subgenre. It was such a niche genre for so long. It was just like a demographic, similar to like shonen anime or something. Just like not quite adult, ready to read adult things yet, but you're not like a fucking kid anymore, so you can at least get some cool story structures there. And that's what I always liked about young adult. But it's just interesting just recently, just like I think Harry Potter obviously just launched young adult into the fucking stratosphere,
into the spotlight.
Yeah.
Because everybody just wanted a piece of that. I mean, that blew up so much. I mean, with like 8 or 9 different movies and now spin-off movies and like the bunch of different video games. I mean, there was a video game dedicated to just Quidditch. It literally just took the sport and made it its own game, which was amazing, by the way.
The fact that people just would look at Quidditch and not immediately go, "What the fuck is Quidditch?" It just shows how popular Harry Potter is, because you don't even need to be like that big of a Harry Potter nerd just to know what Quidditch. Yeah, it's the game where I know so much about the rules of that game, and it's totally made up by this woman 15 years ago. She's like, yeah, okay, there's 3 balls, one of them chases after you. You got to get one of them.
None of it matters because you just got to catch this one flying thing that just allows you to win the game.
Yeah, that's the thing about the game is it's like that one thing is worth 250 points. So theoretically, you can win getting the other ball. It doesn't win you the game.
The whole game, yeah. And I like how just constant. I mean, hey, I was gonna say I like how just there's so much people in danger and people could just die, but we play football here, and then that just gives people concussions and all this stuff. So it's not actually.
Well, it's a bit different than a thing going 40 miles an hour at you. How fast is that thing charging at you?
Yeah, but when you land, you don't just die. Someone can just be like avocado badabo, and then you're healed. Someone just waves a tree branch at you.
Is that how you kill someone in the Mexican school of witchcraft?
Avocado. Matthew's getting a booty call.
No, I'm sorry. This is the one time I had my thing off vibrate because I was actually trying to wait for you guys to.
I haven't taken my phone off of vibrate since I think 2011 when I first got a phone.
Whenever I'm at work and stuff, I always turn them on. But either way, Harry Potter. I think I want to say before we move off of Harry Potter, I feel like we have to. We have a childhood friend, Ryan, that he had to stay inside a lot. And so he read the entirety of the Harry Potter franchise, I think 40 times.
Remember Harry Potter's life during the first book before he goes to Hogwarts?
Cramped in the stairs. That was
it was like that, but he had a bigger room.
Yeah, it wasn't. How close, if not just abusive, do you think his aunt and uncle were? Like, were they abusive? Would you consider them abusive, or were they borderline abusive? Like,
No,
were
I
they?
think he was
they
abusive. Like he wasn't allowed to like do anything. He wasn't allowed to leave the house or like.
yeah,
hang
but
out.
But
like
I'm saying legally. Like I'm trying to
uh,
think.
legally, I think locking your kid in a room under the stairs is kind of wrong.
Did they lock him in there?
Uh,
I don't know. Well, I don't know if they didn't lock him, they like socially locked him in.
Yeah,
Like
no,
they
no. I'm,
pretty
I'm not.
much would
I'm not
like
saying.
punish him.
Yeah, I would consider it abusive, but I'm saying
I
like.
mean, I consider it abusive, but I'm not sure if like the law would consider it abusive.
Yeah, that's the thing. And we're talking about like our law because we don't know like their
Yeah,
their
they're like
laws.
magic law. Who knows? Maybe Muggles don't have rights.
So yeah, Harry Potter I think was definitely like the big thing, obviously for us. I mean, and just for the entire generation. And then I think like you guys were saying, it was definitely Hunger Games. I think that was for us like early high school. I think. And yeah,
You,
no, that was
you forgot the in between,
what was
which is
in between
Twilight.
Twilight.
Twilight was
Oh,
super. It's
oh my
interesting.
God.
So each franchise that got super popular, I'd say like first was we just talked about it, Harry Potter, then Twilight, and then Hunger Games, and they each not only like got super popular, but they each spawned like an influx of that subgenre of young adult. Like Harry Potter didn't just a bunch of these where a kid thinks he's normal, but it's actually part of this super cool like fantasy world.
Like
Percy
world.
Jackson is one of them. Obviously not all bad, just that's how they were. And then Twilight, just rather than a bunch of supernatural like boy-based stuff, it was a bunch of like female-focused fantasy, like romance,
With like
where it's just like a
romance,
girl
yeah, thrown
girl
in.
meets a guy that's mysterious, but then oh no, he's secretly a vampire, werewolf, ghost, Frankenstein. I don't know. I'd read that book.
Who
I'd
has
read
a
one where
tortured soul and is misunderstood? All right.
is
Can we have a quick aside about Twilight? They have the creepiest relation dynamics in that book when you hear it described without being like inured into it. It's kind of funny. So my girlfriend Kayla was describing it to me, and apparently when she was really young, her mom was really into it, and she was just kind of lukewarm about it. So she ended up watching all the movies. That's what she says allegedly, but who knows? Maybe she
Yeah.
was a huge fangirl. Anyways, at like the very last book, spoilers for Twilight if anyone cares. It's something like the main girl chooses the vampire guy, and then the werewolf guy gets really upset that she chose the vampire guy. So
I know about
the
this.
girl and the vampire guy have a kid, and the werewolf's been plotting to kill all the vampires. And then like the kid's born, it's a baby or toddler or whatever, and they go to try and kill all the vampires, the werewolves. And I think Jacob, the main werewolf guy, sees Bella's daughter. Bella's the main girl here, and like imprints on her and goes, "Oh, you're supposed to be my soulmate. This child, this baby, is going to be the person who I am going to marry." And then the child grows up in 2 years, so she has like the body of a 20-year-old, but the mind of a 2-year-old, and disgusting stuff ensues. It is such a weird book.
Wait. Her kid?
Yeah,
Her kid ends up dating the werewolf.
yeah, her kid ends up dating the werewolf, and like apparently her kid like grows up super fast so they can rush the story along. But it has this creepy kind of side effect where mentally she's a 2-year-old, because she's only been alive 2 years.
That's
But they
absurd.
treat her like an
I
adult.
didn't know that was like because the only
That's-
experience of Twilight I had is I think there's a movie called Vampires Suck, and it's like just
That's a safe amount.
it's just a spoof of
No,
Twilight.
the whole
That sounds
book
like something you'd
series is
expect in
so
Japanese
creepy.
anime.
Oh yeah,
Like, that's
This
something
is
that'd be like,
just
okay,
one of my
yeah, that's
Japanese
just-
anime.
Yeah, that's literally something like out of the anime. You'd be like, okay, whatever. That's just anime being anime, But
Oh, yeah, you can see why like 50 Shades of Grey was inspired by it. Apparently, there were gratuitous, incredibly long, like chapter-long sex scenes in the book where they just describe most of what's going on.
In
really?
Twilight?
And Twilight,
there's
yeah,
banging?
yeah, there's banging.
Okay, so
I didn't know that.
Maybe this isn't a young adult.
I don't know. It was very popular in the young adult circles.
I mean, because they were in like our library, like
I mean,
in high
I'm not
school.
sure if it
Young
went
adult
like
got pretty
50
dark,
Shades
to be
of
fair.
Grey levels of banging. I've never read them myself, but I have heard that there are
So maybe it doesn't
more
describe.
sex scenes than necessary.
Maybe it doesn't describe as in detail as 50 Shades does. Maybe it's just like they had sex passionately, and then that's I don't know.
Okay, so you know how Twilight spurred the funny meme when I was younger, but now kind of dumb is the better love story than Twilight thing. Like, better love story Twilight. How many like relationships can you name off that aren't actually worse than Twilight? Like, I've tried. Well, to be fair, I don't think
I mean,
most
in
of us really.
Twilight, it's just like, you look really cool and are mysterious. Let's fuck. Like, that's
But
my
then the whole
understanding
like,
of the book.
then you also fuck my kid. That's
No, the werewolf fucks her kid, alright?
Yeah, I remember that.
The
So,
werewolf.
so
Taylor
I'm not my
Lautner.
stalker fuck my kid.
Yes. Oh, yeah, and, like, by the way, Jacob is stalking, like, the main girl the whole time. It's so
I'm glad
weird.
I missed out on
It's
this.
so weird.
Is it like? Wait, does like the? I guess you're not like a reliable narrator in this, but does like the girl
Oh.
give like permission to be like, you can't have me,
I
but
guess.
no, that's
I-
probably.
That's some crazy stuff. So to me, I went from like in my childhood, there was an innocent jump between Harry Potter and Hunger Games, but apparently there was a
Not as innocent jump.
downward. I mean, I'm sure some people enjoy that books. I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
It definitely has its fans, but yeah, I think the next thing was definitely Hunger Games.
Oh,
yeah.
Hunger Games is pretty big.
I think Hunger Games is a good example that young adult isn't too kiddie. Like they really do go dark sometimes. Like
Yeah, like, I mean, at the end of the day, Hunger Games is about a bunch of kids being put in an arena where they, like, fight to the death, and they're like, oh, yeah, that kid just died.
Like even in the movie, they show how brutal it is. Like that earlier scene, this is one of the things I actually give props to is that the cornucopia scene where like they just like, oh yeah, like 20% of the people are dead from the beginning because everyone
like
starts in next to the corn.
Part?
Yeah, and I love that idea of like one of the most brutal parts is just the chance that you're most likely got to survive is the very beginning. Because you need, well, on one hand, you probably need like a shit ton of supplies, but at the same time, are you really going to fight like the guy that's 2 feet taller than you over it?
I think the reason why Hunger Games did so well is because, I know it wasn't the first. I know it was just like a copy of the Battle Royale.
Battle
movie,
Royale, the actual
which
movie.
I've seen that movie, and that movie is really good, actually. That movie is intense, though. But it's just such an interesting concept, like, because there's so many questions. It's like, okay, well, if you have a bunch of materials in the middle, are you going to go fight for that, or are you going to hide? But then if you're hiding, are you just waiting to die? And I think that's why, in terms of, talking more about like video games, I know there were Battle Royale games before, like you had those Hunger Game, you had like Hunger Game Minecraft mods, which were like one of the first.
We just talk about the fact that the Hunger Games is responsible for Fortnite.
It pretty much is, because it started the Battle Royale. It started popularizing it anyways, and then video game mods and Gary mod custom games and stuff like that. And then we got what was PUBG the first? I think PUBG was probably like
came before Fortnite, but Fortnite got like way more popular, I think.
Because there was things before that, like do you remember that game the culling?
Yes, I played that.
Yeah, we were
I
hipsters
friggin' love
in
the culling. Oh, yeah, we're so cool and artsy. The culling, my favorite part was like playing the trapper character, and I would spend like, while everyone else was getting supplies and whatnot, I would trap the middle so much that like by the time the circle closed and everyone was going towards the middle, it would just be a complete minefield. It would be a clusterfuck.
I remember that.
And then obviously the Hunger Games spawn like the era of like dystopian post modern futures where society collapsed, but it's rebuilt in this like specific
this
way.
Weird, super hierarchical.
Hunger Games.
Yeah.
That's one thing I liked about Hunger Games was
Divergent.
like
Divergent. That Maze Runner, I think.
Yeah,
that was like young adult. I never read
Maze Runner.
I read like the first. I don't know why I only read the first half of books apparently, but I read like the first half of that book.
Well, how are you
That-
gonna make room for reading the other half of other books if you don't just read the first half?
Maze Runner had the same problem Hunger Games had, but it was just way worse. Where everyone cares about the premise of the first book, but then they're like, well, either we somehow redo the plot of the first book in the second one, or we do something different. And usually, most people do not give a shit about what happens after that, and that's the problem. Is like you got to make it interesting. Hunger Games did it where in the second book it's just another Hunger Games, but all the winners of the past 25 Hunger Games come in for one. Which, if I was a winner of one of the Hunger Games, then I had to go
Man,
in for
I would
another
be
Hunger Games.
so
Isn't
pissed
that-
off.
Isn't that what caused a lot of the like? Because I think I've read the first half.
Did you read the first half of the first book and then the first half of the second
No,
book?
no. I read the first half of the first book, and then I saw the first movie, and then I saw like the third movie. So there's like an entire.
So you specifically.
There's just an entire gap. But like, from filling in the gaps, isn't it something like potentially spoiler alert if I get this right? But isn't it like they were pretty much fed up with all that bullshit that the like government was doing?
Oh, yeah.
They're like, no, fuck you, and then they like rebelled, and that was what happened.
The subplot of the whole series, the first one is just the Hunger Games, but the subplot of the whole series is just revolution. It's just like fucking Viva la Revolution.
I like that
out.
because
Yeah.
trouble the government, especially a
But-
government that's making you do the Hunger Games.
Yeah. The government in the Hunger Games is probably the most like classist, like almost like cartoonishly like authoritarian classist you could probably get.
Didn't they
Yeah.
in that thing for how like you could put like wasn't it where not everybody's name was or everybody's name was entered one time if you were eligible, but they would pay you to enter your name in more?
Yep.
Is that the case? So
Yeah,
just
like,
okay, just think
If you were
about that.
more poor,
At a logistic level, that makes no fucking sense because to them, it doesn't matter how many people apply. They're still getting the same amount of like.
Yeah.
So they're literally just incentivizing people to do something that hurts them but doesn't end up helping. Like, who cares if there's more entries? Like, it's not like they're saying like, we got 50,000 entries.
I think
sponsor us.
theoretically, again, this is
yeah, actually, what
all
reason does the
fiction.
government have to do that other than just being a dick to the poor?
Exactly. I don't know.
I could see them arguing that like, okay, so you get someone that really needs the money for their family. Like, they're probably not gonna get out of this alive. I'm assuming the money gets to their family no matter what, even if they win or not.
I'm
And
assuming
so
so.
like, it probably incentivizes like the people that are in there to win are just like more interesting. Like, it makes a more interesting story that this person that entered their name 10 times get like a bunch of money. So they're willing to fight, just even though
Maybe that's also probably a way to make it where all of like the rich people are fine and survive and none of the rich people actually like get put into the thing because they're all having either no entries through some shady way or there's just an influx of entries from people that are like poor and need the money. So that could be just another way they do. See, it sounded stupid at first, but now that we're actually explaining it, it seems a little clever.
it probably is still stupid though. Like,
so
in
why
the
didn't
end,
one person could just be like, I'm gonna enter my name 1,000 times and give everyone all this money.
That's a good point.
I'm gonna die, so like treat me like a king for the next year.
like it's how much could you enter your name? Because then like, what's stopping you if you're going to probably go get it anyway? Like, you put in 50, so you're really probably gonna get in. Why don't you just put like 100?
50,000.
Yeah, so no matter what, you're getting money, so might as well just max that out for your family.
So what if it could have like diminishing returns? Maybe like
Yeah.
the money. We're overthinking this so hard.
So yeah, about the young adult genre.
Also, we don't even know. Holden's probably not even sure if this is like an actual thing. Like, we can all just
No,
be talking
Daniel
about this.
can-
No, this is.
Oh.
I confirm this. This is like, I remember because like Gale, I forget who Catnip went with, but he was like the broody. I had to enter my name 5 times to pay for food for my family. I'm so fucking hot.
I'm so hot.
Yeah,
Dang,
the other
I'm
thing,
gonna die.
the other world building thing they had them show off how fucking haughty these people were was when they in the second movie and book where they had to party with these people. They have this drug just lying around for the rich where it induces vomiting so you can clear your stomach so you can have more food without getting the weight or like stuff, and like all the poor people that like were from these districts were like, "Are you fucking kidding me? We're starving over here, and you motherfuckers are just like."
Yeah.
And sure is a good thing classism only exists in fantasy and not real life, right, guys? Right?
Right. So what were other big like things like that, like Hunger Games or
Would
Harry
you
Potter?
count? What was that book, Holden, that we had to read in high school? That was like a sci-fi book in
Ender's Game?
Ender's Game. Would you count
Ooh.
that? Because that's an
That
old book, but
it's probably like how you were saying originally there were books that kind of just the target demographic, was a specific thing, but it wasn't like a whole
yeah,
targeted genre.
like that wasn't in that era. It was far before,
I'd
but
say
it
it's
got
probably the
kind of the
same,
young
yeah.
adult treatment. It got a movie and like all the other stuff.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
whole thing was like they were in this war against these bug aliens, and basically, spoiler alert, Ender kills all of them because he's a smart boy, but then he gets all morally conflicted because he just wiped out an entire race. And then, like, the rest of the books in the series are about him being just a space hippie.
You know
It's
my
kind of
guess
odd.
of why that movie, why like teachers love that book, and just why it's popular,
Why?
is I think because I've also heard that like one of the problems of those sci-fi epic movie like epics, especially the young adult, is they're weirdly fascistic. Like
Fascist?
like I love that apparently the book that inspired like of the what was it called?
Starship Troopers?
Space Starship Troopers. The book was not ironic in its like portrayal of fascism. Like the guy generally thought that's how you should run things. Is how they run things in that movie. With like where like the military runs the whole government. And in order to become a citizen, you have to serve in the military.
Really?
Like
I thought it was just a thought experiment on his part. He actually thought that?
the writer of that book actually thought that's how you should run things, but then the guys in the movies decided to make it like all like a parody. Like it's ironic that they're Neil Patrick Harris is in that movie, and he fucking straight up has like a Nazi uniform, and it's amazing.
I
Like
did not see the movie. I read the book. I did not. I think
Holden,
no.
Would
We're
you
talking
like
about
to know more?
about the movie. Yeah.
Starship Troopers. We're talking about
Oh,
Starship
right,
Troopers,
We
and not
really
Ender
need to
Game.
watch that. It's this
Wait, Starship Troopers.
amazing
I thought.
movie.
Is that the one where it's like I do my part?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, no.
okay,
Hold on,
no,
you know
I've
that
seen
movie
I've seen
where
it,
they
yeah.
like make fun of the whole military aspect and stuff?
Yeah.
The guy that wrote the book, that's how he thought things should be run.
I was just being a little slow. I thought we were still talking
Yeah, no,
about
no,
Ender.
that's fine. But I just think it's funny that like, yeah,
Yeah.
There's only one guy with a scope in that whole movie.
I mean, I want to see that more. I want to see like Atlas Shrugged, but like a parody of it.
I'm trying to
And
think.
finally, free of the grasp of governments, the wealth producers were free to work for $7.49 an hour at their local McBurger King.
McBurger King. I think the one thing going about just back to the Ender's Game, I really liked the whole point of. I mean, the ending was all quirky and whatever, but like the whole entire. I think the reason why I liked that and why I think a lot of people like it is it almost had like a video game feel to it without it like being like it was like they were in this arena and there were all these crazy things that happened and like that aspect of it was pretty fun.
Another question: would you consider the guy who made Ready Player One his books? Are those young adult?
That's what. Okay, I had that thought and I forgot about it, and I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah, Ready Player One, I would say is it's very interesting, like because it's definitely like that same target demographic, but it's obviously it's like a gamer,
Now,
gamer thing.
I've heard that the movie for that book is to the book as M. Night Shyamalan's The Last Airbender.
No, okay,
is the TV series.
I have, I mean, I might be biased, but I read the whole book like twice. And so Ready Player One is pretty much like the premise of it is it's like in the future and everybody's in these virtual headsets and there's like this MMO that like this rich guy created. And he like pretty much was like dying or whatever, passed away. And he was like, whoever can solve this Easter egg that is in my MMO gets the entire MMO. Like you get to be the new owner of this, multi-billion-dollar MMO. And it's so like in the book, it was like them trying to discover the secrets of this, this MMO, but then because it's so big and profitable, there's all these like corporations that are, just spending millions of dollars to try to, win the contest. And so the book was really satisfying, and it was really deep and stuff like that. And the movie was like, it was a lot more like gamer culture-y and stuff like that. But like for what you can fit of that movie into like a 2.5-hour movie, they didn't try to like just like, I don't know. They took their own spin on a lot of things. Like there were 3 main like trophies that you had to find or something. I can't remember exactly, but there were like 3 different things like that you had to complete, and like first person to complete them all got the MMO. And the movies like goalstones are completely different. So like I don't know. I went into
Was it just different?
Yeah,
I
like
think,
it was
I
just
think
different.
you probably should make it for a 3-act structure of a movie. It's going to be different than 3-act structure of a book.
Mhm.
Like you have way more information you can put in how to beat those 3. So I've never read Ready Player One. People like it, people don't like it, whatever. My one experience is with the other book he made, which I think it's called Armada. I probably should look this up beforehand, but I gotta say, I don't like his writing in that book specifically. It
I
is
can't remember what
probably
was wrong with the book.
I've never like read a book as a kid when I was in the high school era. Like most
I
books I
never
read
read
was like
books.
How to
usually when I
read.
read a book, I was
I'm
like, okay, that was
illiterate.
good, and I moved on. That was the first book I ever read that I was like, I finished it, end it cover to cover, and I was like, that was terrible. That was like, I cringed reading a book. I've never done that before. I had a physical reaction of like, it was the most like gamer like fan service. I like people. How this guy apparently thought how to write these characters is they just, since they're nerds, half the sentences have to be references to a game or a movie or a comic, and it was aggravating. I twice in the book I called out a plot point as that chapter happened. I was like, oh, this is the part. So he's meeting all his fellow pilots in this one part. Oh, this is where he's going to meet the attractive love interest. Oh, there she is, the attractive love interest that he goes on a date with, like in the epilogue of the book. And then later on, the dad that was apparently dead was not dead and was living on the moon. He not only was revealed to be alive, then they had a crash with him, and they thought he was dead for a second, and he wasn't a dead. And then he actually sacrificed himself in the climax of the movie, and he was apparently dead the whole time for the rest of the movie. Book. 3 times did they kill this character. It was so bullshit.
Yeah,
He
so
had 3 lives, Matthew. Are you even a gamer? Ugh.
I could tell what you're talking about, because in Ready Player One, there's like 50 billion references to like old like pop culture, like video games or shows or movies. But I think the reason why it fits is because the whole concept was it's made by this MMO that grew up with the rise of video games. And
There is
so it's like
that
the
thing that makes it
creator.
way better.
Yeah, like so it's like the creator of the MMO like littered his world and his Easter egg in his MMO with all of these quirky things that were a part of his childhood. So it kind of made sense.
Also,
But I could see it being annoying in a normal
premise of that whole book, by the way, was this guy was really into this game that was an RTS, I think. He was really good at it, of defending against an alien invasion, and it turned out that this like secret government, united government thing
Oh my god.
had this game as a way to train against an actual alien
So
race.
pretty much just copying like Ender's Game. A little
Also,
bit.
small nitpick, by the way, but the name they had is, since the aliens apparently put on a base on the moon of Europa on Jupiter, they were called Europeans. And I was just so annoyed.
Oh my
Like,
gosh.
I was like, just call them something else. Out of all the moons it have to name it after, you name it after one that sounds like a group of people in real life.
Those damn Europeans.
Um,
Well,
but I have one more hypothetical before. I'm assuming I have to end soon. But
yeah.
was there since we all probably had it since we kind of read books as kids, I know to varying degrees, was there a young
I am
adult,
illiterate. I banged
a young
rock
adult
against stick.
series that you personally loved as a kid that you don't see people really know about? Is there one of those? Because there's a shit ton of them. Did you read any that was like no one really talked about but you specifically liked?
I was kind of like just a mainstream boy. I mean, the closest to it, which I don't know if it would fit in this concept or this genre, but was the Bone comics, which were kind of like comics geared towards young adults, but like those were still kind of popular, and they're not even. I don't know. So
I
that's
have a
like the closest
couple.
I have, because otherwise I was just a Harry Potter boy and a.
There's so
person.
many I could point out that I read, but the one I remember, I want to talk about this one because it just came to my head, is the Cirque du Freak series. Do any of you remember that? That actually got a movie too.
Nope.
Mm-mm.
It was a kid that, in order to save his friend that got bit by a spider from the circus, he decided in order to save his friend, he would become this vampire assistant, and he just became a vampire. And he was a vampire that was also part of a Cirque du Soleil like freak show. And it was really cool. It was also really dark, and it also had a fucking manga. And I read that in middle school. It had its own manga, and that was insane.
That's insane. What about you, Dan?
So this was kind of when zombies were blowing up. It was this book series called Dust and Decay.
Oh,
And
I
they
read
did
those.
Zombies. Yeah, they were
That
like
was a fun one.
surprisingly quality for
Yeah.
like a zombie book. You know,
It
they
had
good world building.
this
And the
interesting.
characters were interesting.
It had this interesting approach to like a job where one of the main characters, his whole thing is he would take out zombies, but like in a humane way. Like rather than just killing zombies, he would
That rings a
take.
bell.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you've read this too.
Yeah, I'm
if
pretty
you
sure
were in
I
high
did. I
school
just
with
don't
us,
remember
or
it.
middle school with us. But he would not only take out like zombies for people, but it was family members, like family members of people that turned into zombies. He would go and find them and then like do like a memorial service and actually kill them.
Dang.
And I was like, you know what? That's probably something that would be pretty important for you, like people at the time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I just remembered. I don't know how I would have been able to live with myself if I didn't mention this series. But A Series of Unfortunate Events, like
Ooh.
those books where it was like the uncle
Yeah.
like just killed these rich people's parents so he could
Well,
like.
did that happen?
Then-
Wait,
Man,
I do not
apparently
remember
Griffin
that.
Pretty
doesn't
sure it was
have
like
a
heavily
CPS.
implied.
Yeah,
But
they
did
never
he actually
said-
kill?
Or like he organized it. There was some shady shit going behind, but it was just this creepy uncle, and like every book was like one of like they would pretty much be like transferred. Like these three orphans, they were transferred to like a different household each time, and then this uncle always found a way to like creep his way into that. So that was a really fun series, and there was a really fun PS2 game for that.
Spooky
but-
underwater segments, right?
I actually don't remember any underwater segments.
Oh,
But this has been we're running a little low on time. But this has been honestly one of my favorite episodes to film. I don't know why. Just talking about all these like books.
Yeah, I just remembered so many
like,
series I want to talk about.
I know. I just got like straight injection of like nostalgia.
you mainlined nostalgia.
Yes, I did. So hope you guys enjoyed this, whether you're watching it or listening to it on podcast platforms. If you have any suggestions for future genres that we should talk about, feel free to let us know. And thank you guys so much for watching. See you guys next Friday.
Goodbye, people.
Bye.
Thank you for listening.